Hello and welcome to the Cantium Podcast in partnership with Public Sector Focus. My name is Matt Cooper, Technical Account Director for Cantium, and here with me today is Chris Bruce, our Programme Manager. On today's podcast, we'll be discussing the recent device Rollout project, which is a tailored solution where one size doesn't fit all, and share advice for other councils that may be considering the same. So Chris, thanks for joining us today to talk about the device Rollout project for Kent County Council. Can you give us some detail really about why they decided to undertake this project in the first place?
Well, like many organisations, Matt, they had a large laptop estate, and in this instance, a lot of them were going out of date. And a lot of them were actually getting towards the end of their warranty period as well. And with older devices, they become more and more difficult to maintain and more expensive to maintain, and they struggle to keep up with the modern day working environment. And in terms of a general refresh, Kent wanted to take the advantage of the opportunity of refreshing the rest of the estate and moving the whole infrastructure to a much more modern place in terms of Microsoft standards, cloud management for devices, the use of Autopilot and Intune.
As you say, clearly things have moved on a lot, haven't they? And I think they wanted to really take advantage of all of those modern ways of working, and which we'll get into,
Because they had an older estate, obviously the mistake gets maintained more and more over time. It becomes more complex. So even simple changes can be much more costly to implement and take a lot longer to do so.
And be impactful as well to the users,
Absolutely.
in a negative way potentially. Am I right in saying that we designed and implemented a bespoke solution for KCC in this respect?
Well, yes, and we did. We started with the standard, of course, in terms of Microsoft standard, Autopilot and Intune for provisioning. But in amongst that, Kent had very specific needs. For example, it invested heavily in a VPN solution, and that had to be integrated into our solution for Rollout. But also in terms of any organization, there are very bespoke policies and standards that need to apply. And we needed to fold all of those into our solution so that when the users received them, everything was set up and ready for them to go. And the setup was simple in terms of the provisioning was all tested, and there was pre-provisioning with the distributor as well. So the devices were as ready to go as possible when the user received them, with a simple set of instructions to follow to get them to the point where the devices were ready to use and they could be productive in their job.
Yeah, and the user experience, I think, was so key for KCC, wasn't it? In that they wanted to make sure that it was as seamless as possible.
Absolutely, the user was central to everything we did. Really, from the beginning, from the invites all the way through to them getting the device, to the support that they got afterwards. It's incredibly important to KCC that the users were carried along that journey and they had, as you say, a seamless experience to get their new device.
Yeah, the user was in the back of everyone's mind, I think, when everything was being designed.
Absolutely.
Could you tell us a bit more about the bespoke solution that we developed for KCC?
It started with Kent, really, in terms of their wish to put users in the fore. So they took responsibility for the invitation side of the rollout. And the reason for that is, although there was an oldest device first rule in terms of rollout, in amongst all the users, there's lots of complexity there, and there's lots of things to think about. There's things like accessibility, there were specific needs to cater for, and Kent wanted the ability to be able to use its soft skills where it needed for the best experience for the users. We worked with them to develop a solution where they could start the process, and we provided all the asset data to them to feed into it. And they then sent data across into our system. And then that was then sent on to the distributor as an order for a laptop and any accessories that were needed. And obviously then the distributor delivered to the user. The solution really is sort of end to end in terms of with the user being in the center of it. They're kept informed at every point, every step along the way, so they know what's happening. We set up a dedicated early life support team to get them over that hump of getting the new device and getting it to the point where it was working with no problems, with all their application installed and everything. And we also run a call where we look at specific issues that individual users are having who really do need some help to get them up and running. And in amongst all of that, anything that might be a common problem, so that we can find what the root cause is and we can resolve that as soon as possible. So there's been constant focus the whole time on the user experience, because the user is key in this. Because once you start to lose them, the rollout's not going to be as successful as it could be. And very pleased to hear the feedback we get from the stakeholder group, because we run that on a regular basis, that it's considered to be a very successful program, and primarily because of the experience the users are getting.
Yeah, I think the outcome's been very successful. And just to touch on some of the points, really, I mean, it was really important for KCC to retain some control over that, I suppose, that invitation process and that enrollment process. It's not just oldest device first. There are things, aren't there, around you might want to tailor to specific teams and groups of people that are important to you. And it's good that we could work in that way. The users have been involved in that process. We've had that continual improvement, if you like, based on feedback. It's just making sure that the whole thing works, in a constant circle, if you like, which it has done really well. I think it's clear that programs like this are an opportunity to resolve any technical debt, deal with things that maybe have been kicked along the road in the past. Was that a big part of this program, would you say?
It was absolutely an opportunity for Kent. All support solutions have a certain shelf life, and they become more difficult, more complex to maintain over time. So absolutely, Kent looked to leverage the laptop refresh program to move its entire estate forward into much more modern management. So we've looked to leverage the opportunity and to wrap it into our solution to be able to test at the same time. Because obviously, looking at these things individually, they might not make commercial sense to actually do them. But as a whole program of related change for general benefit, it was worthwhile doing all those things.
It is. And I think that, like with the applications, for example, it makes no sense to potentially carry across any bad practices maybe into Intune or whatever, or not look at it. It's an opportunity to look at who needs the applications. Are you on the latest version? Are they licensed properly in the right way that you'd want them to? Because as you say, things move on, and it really is an opportunity to think, well, actually, we don't need that anymore, or we want it like this, or we want it like that. And I think that's one of the big things as well.
Well, it's not just technology, it's also about the thought process of how things are managed. So you mentioned applications, for example. The history is that they were very device-centric.
Correct.
So if you gave your laptop to someone else, they had their application. Right. They're not necessarily allowed to have that application, but you've just given them your device, or that device passed on. So the newer solutions are very user-centric. So if the user has to be in a group, they have to be given their application.
It follows the user around.
And it follows the user around. It doesn't matter what device they're using. They have, because of the central solutions, the ability to get to the applications.
Which makes it far more easier to control.
There's also it's the thought that it's not just a laptop rollout. That this has been the mistake that many people might make, that you buy them and you just give them to users and that's it. It's a technology refresh. And it's not just a technology refresh, it's a service model refresh as well.
Complete change.
And the asset management is completely different. So that all had to be integrated with a distribution solution. And also tied very much to the asset management is a cultural shift for the user base in terms of how devices are managed. The history is that directorates and teams would buy their own devices and they would manage them how they wanted to. They would hand them around when people left, and that meant that it was quite easy to lose track of a device, which is a nightmare from an asset management perspective. And the new solution resolves all of that in terms of its central management. The devices are centrally owned by the customer, and when they're not with the user, they are with the distributor. So the reporting is in place, so you know exactly where devices are as they move. So the asset register gets updated automatically. And so it's a much slicker, much smoother, modern day solution that resolves a lot of the issues of old.
It's easy to simplify, as you say, it to just be a device refresh or a rollout or whatever, but it's intrinsically linked with so many other things like the starters, levers and movers process. And you can't do one without the other.
Absolutely. And in any organization, you might be doing a laptop refresh, but there's bound to be a whole bunch of other projects and programs that are going on at the same time. So whatever you're doing, both ways, they have to match. Yeah. You have to cater for rely on dependencies of something to make sure that you have a holistic route forward for everything that you're doing.
Yeah. And also, as you go along, you find things that you probably should have resolved years ago, or you should have fixed these problems.
Absolutely.
All sorts of things like that.
I think you have to cater for change. You have to assume that change is going to happen.
Yeah, of course.
It's a natural course of things. And these programs, they don't happen in 5 minutes. No. So there's plenty of time for change to be needed if it's not needed on day one.
Yeah. I suppose the point is we've learned that along the way. So we've now got if you like, a solution that we know what the pitfalls are. We've already trodden that path.
Absolutely. We're in a position to plan really well for any rollout program in the future.
So why did KCC decide to specifically target Surface devices, for example?
KCC is a wall-to-wall Microsoft organization. So there's a natural follow-on there. But in terms of the Surface devices themselves, they offer the right amount of power and portability.
Yeah.
They have the right model set for KCC's user needs. We started out with Go2s, 5s, and Pro 9s.
Yeah.
The Go2s, they're a standard laptop, but they're kind of the perfect device, really. They're high performance. They're small, so that you can throw them in your bag and take them anywhere with ease. Work with them on on a train or a bus, whichever. The 5s are similar in terms of performance, etc., but they have a larger screen, so they tend to be useful for accessibility needs. The Pro 9s are a tablet type device, and KCC has a number of teams within its organization that have a need for portable use. So the highways department, for example, and these devices can come with a rugged case, so that they can be safe when they're in use. And of course, because of the relationship both Kent has and Cantium has with Microsoft, there were commercial opportunities there. So the pricing points were very competitive. We've ended up with laptops that are high performance. They're very reliable. The support arrangements are very good for repairs or replacements. So it's ideal, really, in terms of the users are definitely getting a much better experience from those devices than they were from the older devices. Even the i5s have been benchmarked to be higher than the i7s of the older devices. So the users are basically very happy. And the line of devices is progressing pretty rapidly from Microsoft as well. They've got a good sort of future vision for what they're doing, and AI capability is being built into these devices. So the future is bright, really, for KCC in terms of moving into that sphere with this device set.
Yeah, I think, as you say, it helps KCC because they're fully embedded into the Microsoft ecosystem, if you like. So it really sort of aligns to that strategy, if you like, that thinking. And also, Microsoft obviously support Surface devices in Intune, I think, more roundly than they do, obviously, with other manufacturers when it comes to device firmware and all of that kind of stuff. Can obviously be a bit of a pain to update that with other manufacturers, and that's just part of the Windows Update and Intune ecosystem. So.
Absolutely. Microsoft end-to-end is the best solution, where all the security and everything's embedded in there within Intune, as you say, and the Microsoft update. So it just happens in the background. So it's all good to know.
So, Chris, how else have the council benefited really from the device rollout from your point of view?
I think it's fair to say the users are very happy. So they've got a very happy user base because they've got a shiny new laptop. I think they're seeing more productivity. I went to the stakeholder group meeting, and without any prompting, one of the members of staff mentioned that they're seeing much more productivity from their staff. Obviously, they've moved away from some of the legacy management methods for the devices, and that's removed a lot of the overhead. So it's not as complex. It's easier to manage. It's quicker and easy to work with. And they've benefited a lot from the ability to move to not just these modern technical methods, but to much more modern servicing methods for the devices, but also for the users as well. So there's a new service model that is aligned to the modern way of doing things. And it's targeted, once again, at the users in terms of their experience and giving them the best possible that we can.
I think also, as you say, it is a change of experience for the user because, for example, if they want to install an application that they can just have that's not a licensed application, previously they would have to log a call for that and they'd have to be added to a collection or a group, or it would have to be installed manually, whereas now they can go into the portal, they can self-serve, they can install that application. I think also from a user point of view, it's great to to be there and it just arrives one day. The device arrives and it's got everything that you need, which before they might have to come into the office or they'd have to meet up with their manager or whatever. So that's clearly a benefit to them in time, and it's obviously a much nicer experience as a new employee or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Time, and I think in terms of experience as well for the user, it's very slick. It's very hands off. You just get a big parcel delivered to your door. It's got your laptop, it's got all your accessories. If they need to order any other accessories, the solution that we've developed is intelligent in terms of you select the device type you have and it gives you a list of all the compatible accessories.
Correct, yeah.
So it's very slick.
Yeah, it is. So how can partnering with an experienced provider make a difference with projects like this?
You really need to be partnering with someone who's got the experience, who's been there, seen it and done it, and understands how to do it well. And also an organization that has learned lessons over the course of time in terms of understanding what's really important to make these programs successful, fast and efficient, to be delivered in the shortest possible time for the lowest cost. So, Cantium has got the breadth of experience for that. And in terms of helping organizations, what we can do is we can focus on the key things that are important to the success of a program such as laptop rollout. And there are some standards. Obviously, the applications are very important to get them ready because every organization has hundreds of them, and they're an absolute must to have. So we've got a good partnership with Microsoft. We have a support agreement with an enterprise support agreement with Microsoft. So all of that helps really in terms of progressing a program. They're not always seamless. There will be issues. There will be things you want to escalate to Microsoft to get some help. And the ability to do that quickly and get a response in a short time is really key to not delaying these programs and getting to the point of rollout at the earliest possible time.
Yeah, I mean, clearly having the experience that we've got is a massive benefit to any organisations that are looking to partner with us, if you like, to do this in future, because we can hit the ground running and hopefully get there a lot sooner.
Well, it's fair to say we have a ready-made solution.
That's right, exactly.
It won't be the right fit for every single organisation, but we have the ability to tailor it.
Correct, yeah.
to meet specific needs. It's got all the standards in there, all the automation, and it may well just be what kind of reports does an organisation need. In amongst everything that we can do as standard, we can flex to do what they want.
So what other advice would you give to councils that are considering a similar tech refresh?
Really to think long and hard about where they are in terms of technology versus their vision. Plan extremely well.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate the work you have to do. Good project management and technical resources are absolutely key to this. Focus on the priorities. What is it that's really important to the organization, but really in terms of the technical solution, what have you got to have in place at the earliest point in time? Because you don't want to delay yourself. No. So, for example, if you have all your applications in your pocket in Intune, you're good and ready to test them when your laptop solution is ready, or at the earliest point in your laptop solution development. But generally, I would say, wrapping all that together, you need to have the right solution provider to help you with that has that experience, that can guide you through all of that, and also that has the relationships with the likes of distributors, so that you have a ready-made solution that's holistic to be able to deploy for your organization.
Yeah, it's not just potentially about Surface devices. There's obviously loads of other vendors out there, and the solution can be tailored to meet other needs as required. So,
absolutely. So if anyone's looking to run a program or work like that, Cantium's here to help. We have a wealth of experience. We have all the relationships in place. So they should just contact us.
Thanks for joining us today, Chris. It's been a really enlightening discussion.
My pleasure.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Cantium Podcast in partnership with Public Sector Focus, please subscribe wherever you're listening or by visiting www.cantium.solutions.